If you want to write the definition of function or writing function, both are same. Definition of function, writing function, both are what? Same. What is the keyword you are using? Def. Def is a keyword. Okay. So which is used to write definition of function or writing function. Definition of function or writing function is done by using which keyword here? Def keyword. Okay. So you can write a function. Now these are different ways of writing the function, which is called as classification of functions. Here, no arguments and no written values, with arguments and no written values, with arguments and with written values, no arguments and with written values. See, there is a lot of difference between writing the functions in other languages and Python. If you are writing functions in other languages like C, C++, or what is that, Java, how you write the functions with the data type? Okay, you'll say void, which is called as a return type, and then you write the function name, and then you write integer x comma integer, what is that, y, and then you open the block. Now this is the kind of writing functions in which one? C, C++ and what? Java. Okay, now this function is with arguments or with parameters. You call it as with arguments or with parameters. And here return type will be there. Sometimes you write a function. Sometimes you write a function with a return type as integer function 1, integer x comma integer y. So what is this integer here? Data type. And it is also called a return type. And this function will receive how many values here? 2 values. Of which type here? Integer type. But when it comes to the Python, right? No. When it comes to the Python, no. How you are writing the function definition? Okay, so is it any written type here? No, there's no written type. And there's no variables are declared with type or without type. Without type. That is where you say Python is dynamically typed. It means every function what you write in Python is a generic function. Generic means this function, see in this case, this function one can receive only which values? Integer values. In this case, this function one can receive only which values? Integer values. But here function one can receive any type of values. This function can receive any type of values because is it variables are bind with any data type? No. Variables are not bind with any data type. So variables are not bind with any data type. Variables are not bind with any data type. You have to understand. So these functions are called generic functions. Now classification of functions means you classify the definition of the function in 4 ways, right? You can define the function in 4 ways actually. So this is how you are trying to define no arguments and no written values. So it means the function will not receive any value. The function will not return any value. With arguments and no written value, the function will receive the values, but it will not return any value. With arguments and with written value, it will receive value and it is also written value. It will not receive value, but it return value. So how many ways, how many types of functions you can write is this many functions. 4. No argument and no written value. With arguments and no written value. With arguments and with written values. No arguments and with written values. So first is, first try to understand here, no arguments. No arguments and no written value. No arguments and no written values. Arguments are nothing but receivers. I can give some input to the function. I can give some input to the function. When can I give the input to the function? if the function is having what? Arguments. Here arguments are nothing but receivers. Arguments are nothing but what? Receivers, which receive the values. Suppose, for example, if I'm taking function like sum, to the sum function, are you sending values or not? Yes. It means how many values you send to the sum function? 5 values. It means some function will receive the values or not? Yes. After receiving the values, it is doing addition and returning value or not? Yes. It means some function is with arguments and with the return value. Some function is with arguments and with the return value. Means some function receive the input, some function will receive the input and perform the operation and return the value. Means result, return the result. Suppose if we take print function is there. So print function, okay, it will receive the values. Print function receive the values and print it. And after printing, is it returning any values? No. So it means print function with arguments. Print function is with arguments, but no return values. It means it depends on your application. It depends on your application requirement. You may write a function with, it depends on your application. You may write a function with no arguments and no return values, with arguments and with return values, and without arguments and without return value, and without arguments and with return value. So arguments are nothing but receivers, are variables which receive the values. Okay. So no arguments and no return value. A function with, okay, a function with no arguments, a function with no arguments and no return value, no return values. Okay, values. Okay, a function with no arguments and no return values doesn't receive, doesn't receive any values, any values from caller and return any value and return any value and not return any value, not return any value. How you are writing this? Just try to see here. So I'm trying to tell you this. uh, I'll just try to tell you from here onwards. PyCharm. Okay, we'll try to see another editor. What is it? Some examples in Spider and we'll see in Google Colab, so that you'll be knowing total 4 to 5 editors. Okay. What you can do is you can download this PyCharm. So PyCharm is not a Python software. PyCharm is a Python editor. PyCharm is not a Python software. PyCharm is what here? Editor. So you can download the PyCharm. So download PyCharm. Okay, PyCharm. Download PyCharm. Now there is a two versions are there. One is professional and one more is what? Community. So professional is only free for how many days here? 30 days. Professional is free only for how many days here? 30 days. So what you can do is community edition for pure Python development. But professional is used for scientific and web Python development with the support of HTML, JavaScript, and what is that? SQL. Now all these will be supported by which version, which edition? Professional. But this is only 30 days. So try to download which one here? Community edition. Try to download which edition? Community edition. Try to download community edition. So it is already there. I'll try to remove this. So I try to uninstall things and I'll show you again how to install it. But a function with no arguments and no written values does not receive any values from caller and not written any value. Okay. So meanwhile, we'll do in ideally. So how you are writing a function is, you are writing a function. So function name is a identifier. What is a function name is a function name is what here? Identifier. What is the name of the function here? Greet. Now you can see now greeting or greet is a function. What is the name of the function here? Greet. But function is having this parenthesis. Within this parenthesis, you define what? Arguments. So if this parenthesis is empty means, is it this function is with arguments or without? Without. Means I cannot give any values to this function. And it is a block. Block is begin with the colon and then you have to give indentation. Okay. So you can also define the documentation. Now I'm saying this is my first function. I'm saying this is my first function, right? First function. This is my first function. This is documentation. So documentation is ignored, right? Because it is only for reading, right? And within this, I'm just displaying a message. Okay. Some welcome to, what is this here? Functions. So I just write here, welcome to functions. I print a message. What is the message? Welcome to functions. So what is the name of the function here? Greet. And what is the message I'm displaying? Welcome to functions. Okay. So here writing the function is only defining the function. By just writing the function will not be executed. See, by writing the function will not be executed. By writing the function will not be executed. Okay, function will not be executed, right? I write a function. If I run this program, is it any output? No, because this is only writing the function. By writing function will not be executed. By writing function will not be executed. By writing function will not be executed. If you want to execute the function, you have to call that function as one executable statement. So these are called executable statements. So greet. I call the function called which one? Greet. This is calling function. This is calling the function or invoking it. It is calling the function or invoking the function. What is the name of the function you are calling here? Greet. So this is calling the function or what? Invoking the function. You are invoking the function called which one? Greet. And this function is displaying a message. What is the message it is displaying? Welcome to functions. What is the message it is displaying? Welcome to functions is a message. So I can call it, suppose greet. Okay, this is again invoking. So once you write a function, how many times you can call that function? Any number of times. Now this is calling which function? User defined. Can I use my predefined function or not? Yes. So this is which function? This is which function here? Predefined function. So is it a print is a predefined or user defined? Predefined. Greet is a predefined or user defined? User defined. Greet is predefined or user defined? User defined. What is the name of my function? Greet. So once I run this, now you can see welcome to functions, welcome to functions, welcome to functions, and this is predefined function. Which is a predefined function? Print. But greet is which function here? User defined. So by writing definition of function, by writing function definition, function is not executed. By writing function definition, you write so many functions, but all the functions, okay, if you want to use it, you have to call as an executable statement. You have to call as an executable statement. Now this is welcome to functions, welcome to functions, welcome to functions, and this is predefined function. By defining function, it is not executed. By defining function, it is not executed. In order to execute a function, in order to execute a function, in order to execute function, it has to be called. It has to be called as an executable. It has to be called as an executable statement. It has to be called as an executable what? Statement. By defining function, it is not executed. In order to execute function, it has to be called as an executable statement. Executable statement means the statement which is reached to the Python runtime. Runtime is called which statement here? Executable statement. The statement which is reached to the Python runtime is called which statement here? Executable statement, right? The statement which is reached to Python runtime is called executable statement. Okay, it's called executable statement. So by just writing a function, function is not executed. So how many functions I write here? Only one, right? Now suppose I'm writing function one. Okay, so this is inside function one. Then I write another function called which one? Function two. Then inside function two. Then I write another function called which one? Function 3. Then I said inside, what is this here? Function 3. Then I write another function called which one? 4. Then I'm saying inside function what here? 4. So how many functions I have written here? 4 functions. If I run this program, will I get any output? Tell me, if I run this program, will I get any output or no output? No output. So there is no output because what we did, we write only functions. But are we use these functions? Are we use these functions or we just write the functions? We just write the functions, but we have not used these functions. To use these functions, we have to call these functions as an executable statements. I'm calling function 1, I'm calling function 2, I'm calling function 3, I'm calling function 4. Okay, I invoke the function 1 means I called function 1, I called function 2, I called function 3, I called which one here? Function 4. Until unless you don't call it, as it functions are executed? No. So this is invoking the function. This is called invoking the function. This is also invoking function. And this is also invoking what here? Function. This is also invoking which one? Function. So you're trying to invoke the function, okay, by just calling it as an executable statement. But here, this function 1 cannot receive any values because is it this function 1 is with arguments or without arguments? Without arguments. Is it this parenthesis is empty or not? Yes. What will happen if I'm saying function 1? What will happen if I'm writing function 1 by sending 100 comma 200? Is it this function 1 receive 100 and 200? No. Because is it this function 1 is with arguments or without arguments? Without arguments. With arguments means I should write A comma B. If I'm writing A comma B, now this 100 is there. 100 is received by which one? A. And 200 is received by which one? B. Okay, 100 is received by A and 200 is received by what here? B. But here I'm not writing any arguments. It means is it function 1? It means is it function 1 receive any values? No. Suppose what will happen if I run this? If I run this, it is given which error? Type error. Function 1 takes function 1 takes what here? 0 positional arguments. Function 1 takes 0 positional arguments, but 2 were given. It means function 1 will take any values? No. But you are given how many values to the function 1? You are given how many values to the function 1? 2 values. But is it any receivers here? No. Suppose if I am writing A comma B, means to this function 1, you are sending how many values? 2 values. Now, first value is received by A and second value is received by what? B. Now, in this case, will it give any error? In this case, will it give any error? No. So, function 1, if I run this, in this case, is it give any error? Function 1, here, first, we have to send how many values here? 2 values. Function 1, how many values you have to send here? 2 values. Because function 1 is required how many values here? 2 values. But in this case, is it given any error? No. Okay. Yes, it means if it is having arguments, I can send values. If it is not having arguments, I cannot send what? Values. But is it these are the functions with arguments or without arguments? Without arguments. Function with no arguments, functions with no arguments and no return values. Function with no arguments and no return value. This is function with no argument. This is function with no argument and no return values. So no arguments and no return values. Now if you see this output of this code, this is the output of it. Insert function 1, insert function 2, insert function 3, insert function 4, okay, function 2, function 3 and function 4. So the memory for function is allocated. The memory for function is allocated when function is called or invoked. When the memory for function is memory is allocated when function is called or invoked, and memory is deallocated. Memory is deallocated after deallocated after execution of which one? Function. So when the memory for function is allocated, when that function is called, until unless you don't call it, the memory for that function is not allocated. Suppose by writing a function, memory will not be allocated. Suppose I don't call the function 1. I don't call the function 1 and don't call the function 4. But I called how many functions here? Function 2 and called function 3. When I called function 2, there is a memory allocated for what? Function 2. When I called function 3, there is a memory allocated for what? Function 3. But is it function 1, function 4 is called or not called? Not called. So when it is called, when the memory is allocated, suppose if I run this program, is it any memory allocated for these functions? No. Why? Because is it these functions are called or not called? Not called. So until unless you don't call the functions, memory is not reserved. Until unless you don't call the functions, memory is not reserved, right? It is reserved when the function is invoked. It is reserved when function is called, and unreserved once function execution is completed. Unreserved once function execution is what? Completed. Okay. Yes. So that is how it is. Now, the memory for function is allocated when function is called or invoked, and memory is deallocated after execution of what? Function. Okay. So functions are reusable things. Okay. Now just see here. I'm just trying to download this PyCharm here. So download PyCharm here. Now PyCharm is a Python editor provided by JetBrains. PyCharm is a Python editor provided by whom? JetBrains. It is only editor. It will work on the top of Python software. If you don't have Python software and if you install only PyCharm, it doesn't work. So to work with the PyCharm, first you have to install which software? Python software, and then you have to install what? PyCharm. Then you have to install the PyCharm. Okay. Yes. So it is downloaded. Just click on this PyCharm Community Edition. It is asking, yes, open this file and run. I'm saying just say run here. Yes, just click on which one? Yes. Now welcome PyCharm Community Edition setup. It is a Python editor where you can write the Python programs. You can write the programs, you can compile the programs, you can execute the programs. So just click on next. If you want to change the location, you can change the location. If you want to change the location, you can change the location. So just click on next here. Okay. Now create one shortcut on the desktop, and then just click on which one here? Next, and click on which one here? Install. So once installation is done, right, you can see on the desktop. So on the desktop, you can see one icon created. Now this is PyCharm Community Edition 2022, right? Just click on this. So then how to work with this PyCharm here? Okay. So anyway, tomorrow I'll tell you how to work with this PyCharm, how to create a project, and what is virtual environment and everything, right? So today we'll stop it here and tomorrow we'll continue this, right? Thank you.